Coach is anything that provides direction to the players. All right. Control spectators politely, yet firmly. Do not allow them to be involved in the play on the court. Coaching is permitted only during timeouts and between games. Right now. Do not allow spectators to coach and make line calls or interfere with the match in any way. So, what do we want to say about that one? This is a little bit more difficult than you would actually think, especially depending on some of your spectators. The other thing is that you as a referee have got to have your ears open and know what's going on around you. If somebody else is out there and willing to push the rules, and I've seen it happen by giving hand signals, calling timeouts silently, you need to know what's going on, and you can't allow that coaching to happen. And you simply right away, it's a technical warning to the team that is being coached, if you determine that. All right? So you can give a verbal warning or move straight to the technical. Medical timeouts. There is a bit of a change in this one. So we'll talk about that. Honor requests, but do not suggest a medical timeout. And why they're saying that is we've had situations where a referee has suggested, well, do you want a medical timeout? And they call in medical, everything happens, and medical comes and says, no, there was no no case for a medical timeout. They get charged with it regardless now at that point, as soon as medical was called. And if you now are the one that prompted that as the referee, they are pointing, well, I didn't ask for it. You called medical. I shouldn't be charged with it. So we now have a bit of a dispute. So to get away from that dispute, they want to make sure that referees understand the situation. Person falls down, scrapes their knee, got blood on the court. We have to take time to clean up the blood, but we don't ask them if they want a medical timeout. If they're hurt and hobbling around and there's no blood, and they're going to be taking a few more minutes than a timeout, you simply say to them, we need to proceed. Are you taking a timeout? What are we doing? I'm going to have to, get game. We've got 15 seconds, call the score. And at that point, they have to make a decision and say, ref, I need a medical timeout. Say, fine, and we'll go through the process of a medical timeout. So that's why that's in there. They don't want you as the referee suggesting medical timeouts anymore. There is one exception to it, which we'll talk about as well. Walter, are you getting down all these exceptions and make sure I cover them?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, I was asleep too.
I didn't want you falling asleep, Walter, that's all. All right, I think I'm gonna get there. Summon medical personnel to assess the validity of the request. So you don't start your stopwatch yet. Okay, and you start your stopwatch when medical arrives on the scene. There you are. They have 15 minutes or less per player per match, but only in one instance. So during a match, if you're in a best of 3 to 11 by 2, and in the first point of the first game, somebody twists their ankle and asks for medical, they can have up to 15 minutes after the medical has arrived, once you started your stopwatch, to recuperate. Okay? If they get back on the court after 7 minutes has elapsed only, and they play, and after about 5 points, their ankle's bothering them and say, I need to get it taped. Now, I want to finish my medical. That is not allowed. Even though they had 8 minutes left out of their 15, they have used up their entire 15 by having one medical timeout. That player is not allowed another medical timeout. You record the medical timeout below the player's name because this one is attributed to the player. Because as you see here, their partner could also have a medical timeout within the same match, up to 15 minutes. So it's not per team, it's per player.
Alan?
Hang on, let me just finish this one. Record the details on the back of the scorecard without removing the score sheet from the clipboard. So again, you simply bend it over, put medical timeout, The score is 6-4-2. Timeout called, twisted ankle by player, whatever their initials are, PB. And that suffices. So you know what the score was, you know when it happened, and you could even make an annotation there. 7 of 15 minutes utilized, play resumed. Somebody had a question?
Yeah, what's the penalty if they go over 15 minutes?
If they don't go over 15 minutes, you call 15 at 14 minutes and 45 seconds. You call 15 seconds. As soon as your clock turns over to 15, you go time in 002, whatever the score is.
So if I have somebody that falls, it's clearly a back injury. No way is anybody going to move that person till the ambulance comes.
Then
So-
they're forfeiting. We know that. We knew that
That's what
before we called
okay,
medical if
so-
it's that serious. Right?
Well, yeah,
So then that's really not a no-brainer. That's not an issue.
okay.
It's that person who's twisted their ankle or whatever they've done and might be able to resume. So they're going to use every second that they can get, icing it, trying to get the swelling down to see if they can put weight on it. And then they're going to give you a decision after the score has been called. Then you call the score. And if they're unable to resume and respond, it's game over.
The other question I have is blood. If you see blood, do you stop the game and say that's got to be covered up?
Yes. Any blood injury is a referee timeout. It's not attributed to any one person. And the blood is cleaned off the court, cleaned off the individual, and the play will resume.
And does the player have to cover the wound? You can't have exposed blood.
There's nothing that says that
Pickleball.
anywhere.
Okay. A lot of the other
Just use
sports.
common sense there where we don't want blood on the court every 2 seconds, where we have to stop play and clean it up.
Well, I think it's more serious than that. If somebody has blood and then touches their partner, they could be transmitting something. So
Yeah, I understand.
that's why
But what I'm
others-
saying is that the US APA and PCO have not moved in any direction to give any further direction than having to clean blood up, and use common sense that if there's blood that is coming out and going to get on the court or get on somebody, then they're going to have to use a Band-Aid, cover it up.
Yeah, which is what other sports normally require.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, you recorded the details on the back. If a request is not valid, so the medical comes. What we've always said, that goes back quite a few years when I first started to become a referee, it was very clear to us that cramping is not a medical condition, and no medical timeout will be granted for cramping. Well, we've come a long way since those days, and what they've done now is taken that decision right away from the referees. In most of the major tournaments, the referees have no determining factor whether a medical is to be accepted or not accepted. And they have medical staff that make that determination and then report to the referee whether it is a valid medical or not a valid medical. If it's not a valid medical, then immediately you just start play 15 seconds and start the match. And they get a regular timeout is taken away from them. And just like the technical foul, they get a technical warning issued to them as well. Okay.
Saying cramps are not a medical.
That was what was said. That again, we're now not making that determination. That's up to medical to determine whether they accept that as being legitimate or not legitimate. So the referee, again, you don't have to make that decision at all. You are simply there to monitor the 15 minutes and do what medical says and what they advise. Issue technical fouls if no timeouts remaining, just like we did in the last one. Medical timeouts no longer available to requesting players. So again, if they've used the 7 minutes of 15 and they're back on the court, they have acquiesced any other remaining part of that medical timeout. They've used the full amount it's deemed. Equipment timeout, that's another type of timeout at the referee's discretion. Only after all the other normal timeouts have been exhausted. So they've used their 2 timeouts, 3 if it's a game to 21, which I've not seen too often. Then they are allowed up to 2 minutes to repair any equipment issues that they might be having. And there's no limit on the number of those that can happen within a match, a game or a match. So just go back to that. So, you know, whether it's a broken shoelace, shorts that they're falling down around their ankles, they get 2 minutes and no more to be able to fix the issue and be back on the court. And what do? You are there to administer that timeout according to the time. So at 1 minute and 45 seconds, you're going to call 15 seconds, and then you're going to call time in and call the score, and play must resume. If it doesn't, then fault, and we continue like that. All right, less common on court situations. But Walter, any questions on anything that I've covered so far?
One thing I think you should stress is calling faults immediately and loudly, whether it's service, foot, or anything else. This goes way back into conversations, but it's worth saying again.
Okay, yep, yeah, that's your job, is again to know what you're going to call as soon as it happens. So whether it's a foot fault on the serve or a non-volley zone infraction that happens, as soon as you see it and you are sure, you go fault. Second server, side out.
Alan?
Or point if it was the serving team was the wing the point.
Go ahead, Bert.
Alan, during a medical timeout, if my partner can't continue, can I continue the match as playing one player against two?
You know, Bert, you're not going to believe this, but that happened to me in Kelowna a number of years back. And I had a guy that tried to do that, and they had to have the player on the court. But you know, there's nothing in the rules that gives me any advice on that. His partner was able to stand there, did not hit any of the balls. So when it was being served to her, she simply let the ball go. So a point to the server. And then when it was served to him, he played the point out by himself on the court. And that was it. So again, there's nothing in the rules that do not permit that to happen. But I think you have to have 4 players at the start of the match, and you had to have the 4 players on the court. If she wasn't able to be standing on the court, then I don't believe that can happen.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eventually, someone's going to have to serve and receive, right? So that person, you can't play one person.
Well, no,
if you were up 10-5,
all they
if you were
did
up
was,
10-5, you'd want to finish it.
sorry, say that again.
If you were up 10-5, you'd want to finish the game.
Right.
You could let some points go and still win.
That's right. And yeah, and that's why I said it was just a fault when she was serving or receiving and she didn't hit the ball.
No.
Okay, so let's comment on court situations. Technical warnings. Referees are empowered to issue technical warnings, of course. And a technical warning typically precedes a technical foul, but as already been asked, it doesn't necessarily have to go that way, depending on the severity and depending on what is happening. A second technical warning in a match by either partner for any reason warrants a technical foul. So that's clear. So normally speaking, if we're talking about a disciplinary process, we have one that's not even listed, which is just a verbal warning, right? You always have that available to you. And you might just warn somebody on something, you know, watch the language, please. Just quietly under your breath to that one person. And guess what? If that solves the problem and there's no more potty mouth coming from that person, then we've accomplished what we set out to accomplish. We didn't have to punish them. We've got that stopped and we don't have that problem. That's great. Unfortunately, if they have said a bad word too loudly and spectators and everybody hears it, then you need to deal with it, and you would probably award technical warning, watch your language, please. Okay, and again, you're to annotate the score sheet and put TW by the person's name, and on the back, you would say what the technical warning was for, bad language, whatever. And again, at what was the score at that point, just so you know at what point in time that happened within the match. And then, as it says here, so one technical warning, if anything else happens, and again, if it's a minor infraction, but it's any infraction at all, you can no longer use your verbal, right? They've gone past that. And if you have to award anything, it's now got to be a technical foul. It can be a technical warning, but it becomes a technical foul by virtue of it being the second award. And with it being a technical warning and a technical foul, what else happens?
Opposition gets a point.
Point is awarded.
Yeah, not only that, the match is forfeited, right?
What?
Isn't it supposed to be 3?
Nope, this is not 3 strikes and you're out.
Oh.
Okay, so if we have a technical warning and there's a technical foul within a match, the match is over.
Oh,
Start that from the beginning again, Al.
Say again?
Start that from the beginning.
Start that from the beginning. Okay, so
One warning, and then what?
then if the next one, again, what the rule book says, if the technical foul is being awarded under clause, oh God, what is it, 11G2 or 13G2? Let me just read you from the rule book here. Technical foul. Oh, no, that's the wrong place. I just got to get to the right one here.
I
All right,
thought it was
referee-
the second.
Here we go. So this is 13H. The referee will impose a match forfeit when either of the following occurs. After one technical warning has been assessed and the subsequent issuance of a technical foul listed in 13G2. And then the next clause, which is 13H1B, after one technical foul has been assessed in accordance with 13G3C or Rule 13G2 and the subsequent issuance of another technical warning or technical foul for any reason.
so it's the second one.
Right? So what the difference in those two clauses were, first off, you've issued a technical warning, which would be your normal progression up the ladder, right? So you issue a technical warning, and then they have another issuance of a technical foul in accordance with 13G2, which lists some of the rationale of why you would issue a technical foul. And if it falls within that, then it's the match forfeiture. So yeah, I get, I have to say to you that earlier on in my career, I thought there was 3 strikes as well. I always thought it was the third one that broke the camel's back. So we did the technical warning, we did the technical foul, and then anything else that happened, and you're out. And then I started reading this a little bit more closely, and I'm going, not necessarily true. Okay. So it can happen after 2. So 13H1B, again, just going back, if you issue that technical foul first, because of, and what they're doing now is they're coming down quite hard on foul language. And again, it's sort of situational. They've actually going to have a paper come out on that because they had some referees do a full study on this. And I'm not actually clear what the results are, but I don't know, I haven't been privy to it, but I'm going to go ahead and guess that if the situation is that you're on center court, for example, and you use the F-bomb loud and clear for all the audience and everybody to hear, aimed at one of the players or the referee or whatever, that's going to be an immediately technical foul and a point awarded. All right. If they've had a technical warning already, then we're gone to a match forfeiture right there. But anything else happens after you've issued that technical foul, anything else happens at all, if they now dispute a call by the referee and the referee turns out to be right, and they would have got a technical warning, it's now a technical foul, second technical foul, and they lose they forfeit the match.
You still got me missing a little bit somewhere. Is if you have one technical foul, then you get another technical foul, that gives you a technical warning, and then another technical.
Start again and say that would start with technical warning.
Okay, if you get a technical warning, and then you get another technical warning, that is an automatic technical foul.
Yes, that's true.
And if you get another technical warning, that's, you're out of the game.
Now, let's go back and deal with what you're saying, because you actually are hitting on a pretty good point. You know, I've already read it here in the rule book that after one technical warning has been assessed and the subsequent issuance of a technical foul listed in 13G2. So in your instance, you're issuing a second technical warning because it was not within the 13G2 guidelines.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think that second technical warning becomes a technical foul and a point awarded to the opposition, but
Yeah.
it's not a forfeiture.
No, but if you got one more technical warning, that would be your forfeiture.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But let's distinguish about what I'm saying. So if you go into 13G2, which gives you some guidance on what would necessitate the referee to be issuing a technical foul immediately, then that would be a forfeiture. If it does not come up to that level of a problem, therefore it would be a technical warning, and the match would not be forfeited at that point. That's what I believe it's saying here. Right. So what you need to do is get into your rule books now and look at 13G2 and look at all the instances that they have in 13G2. And I'll just take a second since we're talking about it. Technical fouls, the referee is empowered to call technical fouls. When a technical foul is called, 1 point shall be added to the score of the opposing side. Actions or behavior that will result in technical fouls and brackets without a technical warning being issued beforehand. So 13G2A, intentionally throwing the paddle. 13G2B, a player using extremely objectionable or demeaning language directed at another person or extremely excessive profanity. C, threats of any nature to any person. D, challenging the referee's interpretation of a rule and losing the challenge, example, with no timeouts remaining. And the referee was correct and they have no timeouts available. E, any other actions that are considered extremely unsportsmanlike behavior warranting a 1 point award to the opposing side. F, requesting a medical timeout without valid medical condition and the team or player or singles match has no timeouts remaining. And G, a player's injury involving blood is determined by the referee or medical personnel or the tournament director if there are no medical personnel present to have been deliberately self-inflicted and the player has no timeouts available. So those are some of the reasons and the most of the reasons of why you would go to a technical foul and they would forfeit the match if they'd already had a technical warning. Right?
Hey, Al, could I ask a question?
It depends how tough it is.
If let's just say that you're in a match and somebody misses that easy slam down the middle and puts out of bounds and they yell, shit. Sorry, I'm choosing it as a, I mean, when does that become an issue? Like, do some
it's
referees
directed.
call it and some don't, or is that a personal?
Yeah, I think I got your question. I had a little bit of a disruption there. But yeah, this is something that I do all the time. Again, that's where I say if they do an SIHIT, shouldn't have hit it there in the middle of a point and it's quietly to them, but I hear it, I'll just look at them and say, with my hand over here, language, please.
Yeah.
And that's my warning to them. And if next time they do it, now I have to, how loud was it? How much of a disturbance was it? And again, USAPA is just coming out with more of a guideline on profanity. So I think that'll be a little bit better explained come January. But again, I think.
George Carlin did that too. George Carlin had the 7 words. So
Sorry?
George Carlin, he had the 7 words you can't say. So
On TV.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why they had the committee look at it, because what was happening is that every certified referee had their own opinion on how they would deal with that situation. And there was so much of a difference that they wanted to make sure there was more guidelines that the referees understood that this is how the USAPA wants this administered. I mean, to me, it was, it was clear that if I'm on center court and somebody yells out, not just under their breath and uses the F-bomb, they're getting the full weight of the rule book on them, right? There's no place for it in the game and on TV and having young people and spectators and that sort of stuff. So boom, the technical foul immediately. And that's why I say the other day when Don Stanley was doing the APP, and I forget what the players were on the court, but when he gave him that middle index finger, that was immediate technical foul was issued. Well done by him. He didn't wait around. He didn't have to think about it. He knew what he was doing beforehand and he issued it. He's surprised the other team was going to argue so much. Matt Wright was still coming over to argue with the referee about doing something about it. The technical had already been given. So,
but if you read 13G2B, the foul language has to be directed at a player. The finger, it was directed at somebody, but if I just drop an F-bomb, that's not directed at anybody.
yeah, but it's got no place on the court either.
But that's not in accordance with 13G2B.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. The new direction is going to be coming out, and that's why there's this, difference between how we would all handle it, and now they're going to be giving that more direction.
It
No,
also,
that's
it
good.
also says extremely excessive profanity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
no, I agree with that.
again, I think the point is, and I've already made it myself, it depends on the situation
Yeah.
of where you have it. I've had a situation where, I'm not on center court, we're down on the other courts, but there's 8 courts, there's all these people standing around in between the courts, and the player goes out of the court and starts cursing and swearing between games outside the court or at a timeout. I still deal with that strongly. You have to control that. That's still within play. It's within your boundaries. If it happens after the match is over and you've got the signature on the court scorecard and everything done, then you have a little bit more difficulty with that one. All right, but let's move on. Who was the gentleman that has a little bit of an accent?
Ramsey,
Ramsey. Where are you from?
Kelowna.
That's a Kelowna accent.
Yeah, we're in Scotland before Kelowna.
Dundee.
Ah, no kidding. That's why we got an accent like that.
That was 35 years ago, though.
Well, it doesn't go away, does it?
No.
Okay, moving on.